theyeshiva.net.
At the Pesach Seder, many people are exhausted. Present company excluded, of course, always. There's a good reason for it, a reason I probably need not explain to the audience, to this distinguished audience sitting here in this room. But if you remember, the first of the 15 steps of the Seder called Kaddish, the children, when they recite it, they have an old Yiddish way how Kaddish is recited. As the Kinder kommen nach Heim. When the Tate kommt daheim, macht gleich Kiddush. Kedei, as the Kinder soll nicht anschlafen werden und fragen den Mann stana. When the father comes home from shul, he ought to make Kiddush immediately, so that the children shouldn't fall asleep and they should ask the man shtana. It's a pity they didn't make one that the adults shouldn't fall asleep. The children are not falling asleep. It's like every night in your house. The children are ready to party till 1 o'clock in the morning. It's the adults who are craving to fall asleep. Apparently at some point they didn't think that the adults wanted to sleep. The adults were up, that was taken for granted. The challenge was with the children. Today it's maybe a little topsy-turvy, where the adults fall asleep, but people are often exhausted. When somebody is exhausted, it's hard to be mindful of anything. There's an expression by Amalek, it says, Va'ata oyef v'yageya v'lo yarei elokim. So one of the Hasidic interpretations is, when you're exhausted, it's very hard to experience Yiras Hashem. When somebody is exhausted, naturally they're in a more shallow space. All they're thinking about is a bed, and that's part of the human condition. But the truth is that the night of Pesach, the night of the Seder, offers incredible opportunity in life, an incredible opportunity in life, because there's an energy in the world on Pesach, especially at the night of the Seder, known as the energy of Cherus, the energy of liberation, of redemption. It's a vibe that exists in the cosmos during the Yom Tov of Pesach, but especially at the night of the Seder. And the Seder, which literally means order, is essentially a 15-step program to experience internal and external liberation. There are 15 steps in the Seder. They're known as the 15 Simonim. Kaddish, Ohr Chaim, Karpis, Yachatz, Magid, Rochza, Monsey, Matzah, Morer, Koirich, Shulchan Oirich, Tzafon, Berach, Halal, Nirtza. You see, I learned it in school, I remember it, even without the tune. These are known as the Simonei HaSeder, which literally means the signs, the mnemonic, which represent each step of the Seder, beginning with Kaddish, concluding with Nirtza, as we shall explain. But beyond a simple system of what comes next, these 15 steps really are a 15-step emotional program. They are a ladder that consists of 15 rungs. They are 15 features, characteristics. They are 15 psychological, emotional, and spiritual steps through which every Jew can climb the ladder towards freedom, towards emancipation, towards inner and outer liberty. Sometimes, as is always the case, we get caught up in the technicalities of the step without identifying the emotional and spiritual qualities of it. So a person can sometimes do the physical laws correctly, and that's of course of primary importance, but we often fail to appreciate the neshama, the consciousness, the soul, the message behind it. And it could be an exercise in technicalities, which are significant, they are divine mitzvahs, but the person fails to fully seize the opportunity and soar with the experience. Often, we don't even realize that these steps have any internal significance. It's just next. Let's get to the meal, or when we get to the fourth cup, or even better, the bedroom. What I would like to address therefore today with you is a brief overview of the 15 steps. In order to be able to cover all the 15 steps, by definition, we have to keep each one brief and concise. The truth is, each step deserves a shiur in and of itself, because it is. Maybe even more than one shiur, certainly some of them. But at least we can begin to explore the tip of the iceberg. And even if not in an exhaustive fashion, but at least on some level to be able to get a glimpse and an appreciation into what each one of these steps represent. So that during the Seder, Erev Pesach, the right thing to do Erev Pesach is to take a nap. So that by the Seder one could be fully up and present. You think I'm crazy, right? I'm talking about women. I'm talking about the women. The women should take a nap. I like to play the piano a little bit. So my parents' home, they had a beautiful piano. So once it was Erev Pesach, I don't know, it was like a half an hour before Lichtzenden. And I got ready for Yom Tov, and I sat down at the piano, and I started to play. My next door neighbor, this is Brooklyn, it's not Monsey. Here, your next door neighbor you could see once in 4 months. But in Brooklyn, your next door neighbor lives in your kitchen. So my next door neighbor, who was Bechlal, always late. By nature, he was a procrastinator. He got it done, but after the last minute. He opens the window and he starts hollering at me. He says, "Du bist meshuga?" He says, "Everyone is stressed. Everyone is running around there like a chicken after kaparas, like a chicken without a head, or like a hishayna after a shayna rabbah. This one doesn't have matzah, this one doesn't have the maror, this one doesn't have the wine, this one doesn't have the tablecloth, this one doesn't have the salt, this one doesn't... Whatever, everyone according to their hidurim and mitzvahs and chumras, this one didn't squeeze the oranges yet." How do you have the audacity to sit down and start playing music? He's screaming from his window, he starts screaming at me. I was a bacher, I was a yeshiva bacher earlier. I was playing very nice songs. I don't remember what I was playing, but it was nice songs. So I told him, I said, listen, I'm sorry that I triggered such anxiety in you. But let's remember, after everything's said and done, Pesach is man cheresenu. It's a time of liberation. That means it's a time of serenity, it's a time of relaxation. So who really got it right? You or me? I want to remind you, I said, that in all your running around, the real purpose is for you to be able to ultimately relax. So I am that voice that as you're all running around, I just want to represent to you that there is a voice of sanity in all of the preparations. Ad hayom hazeh, when he sees me, he always thanks me. He said he gave me perspective on how to deal Erev Pesach. Not to get overwhelmed by being overwhelmed, and getting even more overwhelmed over the fact that you're overwhelmed, over the fact that you're overwhelmed. So, when we sit down for the Seder table, the most important quality is to be present, to be relaxed, to be serene, and to be attentive. A Jew once told me that he purchased before Pesach around 40 new Haggadahs. They have hundreds of Haggadahs with different commentary and interpretations from all schools of Jewish thought and Jewish life. You'll have the Haggadah of the Vilna Gaon, and you'll have the Munkacher Haggadah, and you'll have the Belza Haggadah, and you'll have the Vishnitza Haggadah, and you'll have what's called the Rosh Yeshivas Haggadah, and you'll have the Chidaz Haggadah, and the Samsoifas Haggadah, and Fasemes Haggadah, and the Tzadik Haggadah. And everyone has a Haggadah. And this person purchased, 30, 40 Haggadahs. And he told me that he prepared for weeks Divrei Torah insights, beautiful insights he plucked to be able to enhance the spiritual experience of the Seder. He sits down at the Seder table, and Yankee got into a fight with Dvoidala. As a good brother and sister the night of Pesach do. They got into a fight, hollering and screaming. He's trying to say a vart, but they're fighting. And then Yoeli poured out the wine by mistake on the tablecloth, and somebody else got the wine, so started another churban. And then every time he opened his mouth to say a vart, there was another catastrophe at the table. And he told me how frustrated he was. There was no Pesach. It wasn't Pesach. So I told him, what you should have done is take your 40 Haggadahs and put them in a safe till Lag BaOmer. On Pesach it says, "V'higadata levincha bayoim hahu leimer." You're supposed to talk to your child. Talk to your child means don't talk to yourself. Don't impress your child. Don't try to express nice things that you think are maybe interesting, but actually tune in to the world of your child, whatever that world is, and speak to him or speak to her. Don't start coming with 30 books and saying vertlach and torture everybody to listen to you for hours. Even though you know how boring you are, I know how boring you are, and your wife and children certainly know how boring you are. They have to deal with it all year. So you could prepare as much as you wanted to say to actually tune into the life of your child. So it's important because people often lose the opportunity, and they have certain expectations of what a perfect Seder looks like. Those models are not true. People create expectations. This is what a Seder looks like. How do you know what it looks like? How do you know what it looks like? It's a night of freedom. So by definition, why are you creating certain images that everybody has to fit into? A good Seder looks like parents bonding with children. That's what it looks like. How do you bond? Every house you bond differently. Every family you bond differently. So it's very different. Sometimes you have to do it very fast. Sometimes you have to do it slow. But the thing is to tune in. And you can only tune in when you're fully present emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, intellectually. And all the preparations that everything should be perfect in the house is far less significant than for mother and father to be present as we re-experience the moment that the Jewish people became a nation 3,300 years ago, as we go back to those moments of Yetzias Mitzrayim, to be able to be fully present. What often happens is, in the name of certain structures that we expect, we sacrifice the most important thing, and that is serenity, happiness, and emotional intimacy. They are all sacrificed on the altar of being perfect in terms of structure, and it should really be the other way. The structures are here to serve the relationship. The relationship is not here to serve the structure. So the 15 steps really, you with me? You understand what I'm saying? I think this is important information, in my opinion. So the 15 steps are really steps. You know, there's the 12-step program. There's a 613-step program. It's a very Jewish program. It's called 613-step program. And then there is the 15-step program. And the Seder is a 15-step program towards recovery, towards liberation, towards the exodus of your own Egypt, of your own Mitzrayim. It says in Svarim, based on a medrash, that the word Mitzrayim comes from the word Meitzar, Mitzarim. Mitzarim means restrictions, confinements, limitations. So Yetzias Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt, is not just a geographical definition. Jews were in a land called Egypt and they left. I assume most of us sitting in this room have never been to Egypt. So we can't even do Yetzias Mitzrayim. I did get a call a few years ago. Somebody asked me if I would join him, and with my family, join him on a cruise. He wants to do a cruise for Pesach. Where? On the Red Sea. Yam Suf. And in order to entice me, he says, imagine Shvi Shal Pesach, the day of Kriyas Yam Suf, you will be on the Yam Suf, in the Yam Suf, literally on a boat. I said, I will do it with one condition. If you can guarantee that Shvi Shal Pesach in the morning, the sea splits. If the sea splits, I'll go to the Yam Suf. I have no problem. Could you guarantee that? He says, I can't. So then I'll stay home for Shvi Shal Pesach. I'll experience Kriyas Yam Suf in different ways. Yeah. So Mitzrayim is not just a geographical place. Of course, it's a land. Mitzrayim is a condition. It's a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness. The question I have to ask myself is, What is holding me back? What is confining me? What type of confinements am I in? What stops me? What embitters me? What makes me feel scared, lonely, sad, resentful? What is it? What are those confinements that trap me? That's my Mitzrayim. And the night of the Seder is an opportunity for my own Yitzias Mitzrayim, for your own Yitzias Mitzrayim, for our own Yitzias Mitzrayim. As we say in the Haggadah, B'chol dor v'dor chayev adam, liris hasatzmei kilu hu yatzam mitzrayim. Each generation is about re-experiencing the reality. How do I re-experience this reality? This is already a different type of Seder. This is a Seder that's very vulnerable. This is a Seder that's extremely meaningful. It's a Seder in which the conversation relates to very profound emotional journeys. Now, of course, it has to be age appropriate with the people sitting around the Seder table. I was once, years ago, at a Seder, and it was already deep into the Seder, and at that point, it was babies basically. They did fall asleep. So there were a bunch of adults. I suggested that we do an exercise at the Seder table. Everybody should go around the table. We should go around the table, and everybody should share the two most powerful Mitzrayims that they have in their life. What are the two most powerful experiences of darkness that they feel cause them so much confinement, really traps them, really imprisons them, whether emotionally or physically or spiritually or psychologically? What is it? What are those Mitzrayims? And I said, if you're afraid to speak about it, which is also very normal, maybe that itself is a Mitzrayim that you could go out of. Maybe that fear itself is something you should consider. And many people took up the challenge, and it was a very, very powerful Seder, because after that, the conversation, you understand, completely was transformed. It wasn't anymore somebody saying, I have a Vart, I'm going to tell you. Stop with your Werter, and let's discuss Yitzias Mitzrayim. See, what happens often is Werter are nice, but they often become cover-ups that eclipse any emotional experience. There's always a Vart. You have a good Vart? No, I don't have a good Vart. If you want to talk, we can talk. Even the Yiddish, you go from English to Yiddish, because a Vart, right? A Vart, now, I have nothing against Werter, I do it all day. But, I have nothing against Gute Werter. But they often become crutches or cover-ups that substitute genuine experiences. So instead of saying Werter by the Seder, people really have to express their soul at the Seder, their hearts at the Seder. Again, there's no model. There are 15 steps, but each person and each family and each home and each group that does the Seder together experiences it in his or her own way, individually and collectively. Let's go through these 15 steps. Be'ezer Hashem, and as I said, since we're not going to be sitting here for the next 15 days, we could, each day do one step, but probably won't happen. So I'm just going to go through them, and again, everyone has different layers and different interpretations and different explanations, but we're going to touch on each one with God's grace. The first step towards liberation is always Kaddish. Literally, as your child, God willing, or your grandchild will explain at the Seder, Kaddish is we make Kiddush. We lift up the cup of wine and we make Kiddush. And it's unique because all year, one person makes Kiddush, and everyone listens and participates, and by answering Amen, we become included in the Kiddush. But Pesach, everyone is part of the Kiddush, because the mitzvah of the 4 cups of wine applies to every person, man and woman. The mitzvah of Dalet Kaisus is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, it's a rabbinic obligation for every Jew, man and woman, and also children if they're already age appropriate for chinuch, for the mitzvah of education. So it's a Kaddish that includes literally everybody. But what does the word Kaddish mean? Kaddish comes from the word Kedusha, holiness. Comes from the word Kaddish, which means sanctify. But the appropriate exact translation of Kaddish is to designate. To designate. In fact, that's what Kedusha really means. Something is designated as aloof, as sacred, as holy. So there's designated time, there's designated space. A Sefer Torah. A Sefer Torah is something Kaddish. It's designated. The Mishkan, it was a designated space. Shabbos is not a designated space, but it's a designated time. 24 hours that are designated. It's an island in time. It's a transcendental oasis. You have islands in space, and you have islands in time. And just like you need islands in space, you're traveling through a long, long sea. You're traveling in a huge ocean that seems like endless, mayim she'ein lahem sof, and you have an island where you could relax and for a few moments get out of the water, especially if the waters are tumultuous and stormy. So there are islands in space, but there are also islands in time. But there's also islands within the person themselves. There's an island in time, there's an island in space, a special place. You have a Beis HaKnesses, a Beis HaMedrash, a Mikdash Ma'at, a Makom Kaddish. You have the Beis HaMikdash, you have the Mishkan, you have Kodesh HaKadoshim, and there's many levels and gradations, but it's the common denominator. It's designated. Designated. In fact, you have it even in the negative. There's a pasuk, Loisia Kedesha. Kedesha, Rashi says, is somebody that is mizumenes, somebody that is designated for promiscuity. That's also a designation. Sometimes there are certain people, they say, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. I have to tell you, somebody came to see me, a young man, and he told me his life story. It's a very, very tragic life story. From the age of 6 till the age of 13, he was molested by 4 different people, including family members and 2 other people. One from his shul and one was a guest in the house. And he's a great human being. I see right away, great soul and a great light coming from him. He doesn't know it. He knocks himself all day. But that's who he is. So he told me these words. He says, at some point in my life, at the age of 11 or 12, I decided, based on my experiences, that my soul came down to this world for one purpose. And the purpose is to be used by others the way they want. And when I do that, I'm fulfilling my spiritual mission for which my soul came down. That was the only way I could make sense of the story of my life. 20 years later, he's still guided by that story, instinctively. For him to learn another story is tremendous, tremendous effort. So you see, we designate ourselves as certain people. This is who I am, and this is what I'm made for. This is my purpose. The first stage in the journey towards liberation is Kaddish. Kaddish means I have to be able to designate myself as a particle or a wave of holiness. I have to be able to look at myself. If you could just put your cell phones on vibrate, please. It's nice. I mean, the tune is nice. I have to be able to see myself in terms of infinite potentiality for growth and for holiness, for intimacy with myself and with Hashem. They say there was once a teacher who asked every child to write on a piece of paper what they would like to be when they get older. So somebody writes, of course, a policeman, a fireman, the usual suspects, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, a ben Torah, whatever it was. A little girl wrote, she wants to be possible. Possible when she gets older. Teacher says, what does this mean? What do you mean you want to be possible when you get older? She says, I don't know what it means, but I know every single night, both my father and mother tell me the same words. You're impossible. So I'm dreaming that when I get older, I should at last be able to be possible, not impossible. But there's a profound message in that. Kaddish is to be able to envision myself as a source of endless possibility. But there's something more to it, and quite literal. I have to be able to designate space in my mind, in my heart, and in my day, in which I can focus on growth and inner liberation. We say in Kriya Shema, Va'avadetem meheira me'ala aretz hatoiva. So the Baal HaTanya interpreted it. Va'avadetem meheira. In life you have to lose the meheira. You know what meheira means? Schnell, 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 schnell. Fast. Meheira, swift. Or as we say in English, get it over with. Get it. Let's get it over with. Let's just get it over with. Next, 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 next. It's always next. Always next. Va'avadetem meheira. You have to lose the sense of everything has to be fast. In other words, I could never be present anywhere. The moment I'm present somewhere and I feel a little anxiety, I right away start texting. Stop it, it's a distraction. I right away go check this out, check this out. Sometimes, yes, life, I have to do things. I can't sit a whole day and meditate on who I am. But Kaddish, you have to be able to designate space in your heart, in your soul, in your day, in your night, to be able to feel, to be able to experience, to be able to challenge yourself, to be able to ask questions, to be able to inquire, to be able to be inquisitive, to be able to grow. Without that, I'm just bombarded with endless pressures and demands. Now, it's not easy for a mother to create such space in her life. It's challenging, but it's necessary. An ambulance is traveling with a passenger, taking a passenger to the hospital. And it's literally serious. It's very serious, maybe a life and death situation. And the gas is on empty. And somebody tells the driver, you got to stop in a gas station to fill up the gas. He says, I don't have time. I'm saving people's lives. I'm a mother. I have a whole family to deal with. There's only one problem. The ambulance died on the highway. The passenger didn't get to the hospital. No gas, no hospital. I cannot be here for people if I have nothing inside of me. If I am a shmata, if I'm a door mat, and everyone steps on me, it seems very noble, but I can't give you anything. So if I really think of myself that I have nothing to give, and my whole purpose in life is for you to step on me, then it works wonders. The greater a doormat, the more fulfilled I am. And some people feel this way. The greater a doormat, the more shmata, the more holy you become. The more olam haba you're going to get. The more God loves you, because this is my purpose. There's nothing to me besides being something that everyone steps on. So step, 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 step. And with every complaint, I'm really celebrating the opportunity, because I know this is my path to salvation and redemption. Anybody relates to what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, at least one person doesn't think I'm crazy. The ambulance needs gas, not because it's narcissistic. I don't fill up gas because I'm narcissistic. I fill up gas, I should be able to drive into the hospital. It's not about narcissism. That's why Kaddish, the first thing is, you have to be able to designate space in your brain for your soul, for your relationship with Hashem, for your relationship with your soul, for your internal values. Next, step 2. You see, I could sit on step 1 for a while, but let's move on to step 2. Step 2 is Ohr Chaim. Ohr Chaim literally means I wash my hands. In growth in life, I have to have clean hands. You designate space. The first thing I have to make sure my hands are clean. What does this represent? Clean hands, of course, means physically the hands should be clean, but it represents something. In Yiddish, there's an expression, reine hand. Reine hand means clean hands. Interesting, no? But reine hand means something else. Reine hand means I live an honest life. My hands are pure. A person who's lying can never experience real growth, because I'm living in a world of, of distortions, of deceptions. So I really have to ask myself a question. Do I ever lie? How many times a day? Some of us will be shocked, present company excluded, you know. So I say some of us, I'm talking about the planet. Maybe Syria, Iraq, as far as possible from America. But some of us will be shocked if we make such a list. How many times a day do I say something that's not true? We have a wonderful expression in English. It's called white lies. White lies is the biggest lie that exists in the world. It's the justification for every lie. I don't lie. I just say, what do you mean? You just said, it's a white lie. Why are you late to the appointment? There's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the FDR. I can't move. I'm sitting here for 45 minutes. You just left your house. There's bumper. You're imagining there is bump. You're hoping there's bumper-to-bumper so you can have an excuse. That's not true. It's embarrassing for me to say, I'm so sorry I left the house late. But that's the truth. I left the house late. Okay, Forshay has some traffic, but it wasn't 45 minutes. It was around 9 seconds of traffic. Okay, 9 seconds becomes 90 hours of traffic. That's why I didn't show up a whole year. I'm giving small examples, but they're not so small. We often lie to our children. We lie to our spouses. Worse, we lie to ourselves. We lie to God. We lie to friends. Why didn't I see you last night by the bar mitzvah? I already have the strep for 3 weeks, and it's after pneumonia for 9 weeks. No, you didn't come. I know why you didn't come. You weren't in the mood. Okay, there's no mitzvah to tell everybody that you weren't in the mood. But I'm not allowed to lie. I'm not allowed to lie. I once called somebody. I said, can I speak to your tati? He comes back. He says, my tati told me to tell you that I'm not home. Yeah, tell him he's not home, right? Now, what is this child supposed to do when he grows older? I told him, tell your tati in my name that I love him. A woman once told me, an older person, a very special soul, a person I know well, told me that when she was 7, I don't know, I guess it used to be on the buses in New York, till 6 was one price, could be still exists, and then after 6 was another price. So she already had her birthday the week before. So they come up, the bus driver says, how old are you? So the mother says, 5. She says, that's not true. I'm already 6. I'm already 6. I asked her, what did your mother tell you afterwards? She says, my mother chastised me so badly. She says, you never, ever, ever embarrass me in public like that. The mother forfeited an opportunity. She could have taught her daughter a priceless lesson, and that is, I'm human, I made a mistake, and I said something that's not true. In order to save $2.50, she allowed her daughter to lie for many, many years and betray her own soul. And their daughter had to come to this recognition 20, 30 years later out of pain. It's not worth $2.50, trust me. It's worth to spend $2.50 and say the truth. It's not worth it. There's no lie that's worth the money or the glory that we protect when we say the lie. I'm not talking about lying where Torah says you're allowed to lie. For example, to save a life, pikuach nefesh, that's doicha kol haTorah kula. And there's certain situations where one may alter, but it's a very serious, it's careful, it's not whenever I'm uncomfortable I lie. We're talking about saving a marriage, certain situations, and even then it's not called lying, it's called deviating. Mutter l'shanos mipnei darkei shalom. There is an expression in Yiddish, Aligin tarmenich zagen, dem emes darf man euch allemal nicht sagen. A lie I'm not allowed to say. It doesn't mean I always have to say the truth. It doesn't mean I have to walk around and tell everybody everything that is happening in my life. That's ludicrous. It's foolish. But there's a big difference between not saying everything to everybody and having discretion, different situations, especially when you hurt feelings, but saying a lie. So Ohr Chaim means I really have to clean my hands. I have to see. Am I lying? Am I cheating? Am I deceiving? Are there things in my schedule in which I'm simply living a crooked life, a dirty life, a dishonest life. If that is part of my routine, it's not going to work because I'm in a shell, I'm in a bubble, I'm in a winded up maze of distortions and lies. There's no room for growth. Sometimes people are living that life. They're so entangled in trickery, in crookedness, in deception, in falsehood, that they're stuck. They say that if you're lying, you have to have a good memory, because you have to always remember the previous lie. So you have people that have brilliant memories, and they build one lie on another lie, and another lie, and another lie, and another lie. Especially some marriages work that way. Everybody's busy lying to each other, and they somehow survive. People don't realize the emotional cost that takes. People don't realize the emotional pressure when you live a life in which you have to protect lies. Maybe one of the best advice one could give somebody they love is, never lie, ever. You know why? Your conscience will be clear, transparent. Even if you're going to be uncomfortable, it's worth the uncomfort for the next day, hour, or 2 days, rather than your soul bruised, wounded, because every lie creates an infection in the soul and it doesn't go away unless I do tshuva, unless I repent. That's step 2. So you see, step 2 we can also sit on for a while, but let's go to step 3. Karpis. What's karpis? Karpis is where a lot of people just shut down by the Seder. It's like, at this point, really? We're doing this again? You take a vegetable. Some people take onions, some people take potatoes, whatever, there's different minhagim. The point is a vegetable. Huh? You want to take another vegetable, you can take another vegetable. Whatever you usually take. Take onions, potatoes, but there's different minhagim on this. What do they take in your house? Karpas. Radish, celery, parsley. Okay, yeah. Yurakis, no difference. It's a vegetable. You dip it into water. You dip it into salt water. And you eat it. You make a bracha, boire priya adama, and you eat it. That's called karpas. Why do you do it? So the children say, so that the children should ask questions. Even though they're learning that in yeshiva also. But that too, okay, that itself you learn. You learn to say that we have to ask questions. Now we have to do things that they should really ask questions. You have to do new things. But that's part of karpas. Okay, there's other symbolisms, karpas, samach perach, whatever it is. I want to discuss now a deeper element of karpas. We take a vegetable. You don't take another food. Boire priha adama. The body, a human being, is called Adam. Why is it human? Both Adam and Chava were both called Adam. It says, Vayikra Shmam Adam. Why Adam? From the word Adama. From the word Adama, earth. Afarata velafar tashav. Boire priya Adama, therefore, is not only a vegetable from the ground, also represents the Adam, the human being. But the truth is, Adam also has another meaning. The Shalah says this, the Shalah HaKaddish, Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz. In Chumash it says Adam is from the word Adama, so it seems. But Adam also comes from the word Daima. Adama le'elyon. I can compare myself to Hashem. Adama, from the word dimyon, similar, closeness, Daima, like. The person is in the likeness of the Ribbono Shel Olam. Adama le'elyon. So what does Adam mean? Adam means you're like someone else. Adam is basically a vote of confidence that you reflect God. Which one is true? The Adam of the Adama, the earth, or the Adam Adama le'elyon? Of course, both are true. Everyone has to choose their interpretation. This is a choice. Either I could look in the mirror and say, I'm a piece of earth, back to the shmata. I'm just a piece of earth. I'm lowly, I'm brute. Or I could look in the mirror and say, Adam le'elyon. I am similar, I reflect. What do I reflect? I reflect truth. I reflect the harmony of Hashem. I reflect the goodness of Hashem. That's a choice. And the truth is, both interpretations exist within the person. The human condition is comprised of two various forces. There is a duality. There is a dichotomy intrinsic in the human soul. We operate not on one level of consciousness, we operate on two levels of consciousness. We have, as it says in Sfarim, a nefesh elikis and a nefesh bahamas. We have an animal consciousness, which makes us part of the zoological species. We're Homo sapiens. We're the smart monkey, the wise ape, the one who builds gymnasiums and theaters and schools and writes music and writes plays and has an imagination and studies biology and produces men and women of renown. Things that animals don't do, but essentially we're still part of the zoological species, even if we're more developed in some ways. And then there is another element of the person. There's Adam Ela Elyon. I reflect Hashem. They say that there was a bar mitzvah boy who wanted to give a speech about his family origin. So he asks his mother, I want to talk about where we came from. So she said, what do you mean where we came from? God created heaven and earth in 6 days. On the 6th day, he created man and woman. For some reason, for some bad reason, they decided to have children. And the rest is history, or actually her story. And then you have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, and here we are today, a few thousand years later. Comes to his father. His father's an enlightened graduate of Columbia University. Says, Daddy, where do we come from? All the way in the beginning, Daddy says, we have evolved over hundreds of millions of years. We've evolved from the apes. And the apes, they evolved from other primates. And where did they all begin? He said, it all began with an explosion of hydrogen gases and bacteria, the primordial soup, and a Big Bang. And ultimately, it developed, took maybe 15.3 billion years, and we're here today. Comes back to his mother, and he says, I'm very confused about my bar mitzvah speech. I want to talk about our origin, but I don't know what to say. You tell me we come from God, Adam, Eve, Abraham, Sarah. Daddy tells me we come from apes, monkeys, gas, and bacteria. What should I say? Where do we come from? His mother looks at him and says, son, there's no contradiction. Your father was talking about his side of the family. And I'm talking about my side of the family. Really, no steer and no contradiction whatsoever. Okay. You can tell it over to your husband, but not in my name, please. I don't know your husband's family, so I'm not giving commentary. But you know. You know the Ma'aseh with Moshe? There was once a rabbi, a rav, sitting in his office. He was learning Gemara at 3 o'clock in the morning. A couple comes into his office, his shtibel, and he says, what are you doing here? They say, there's a world war in our house. A milchama, a war. What? We're having a bris tomorrow morning. He says, Mazel tov, what's the war? We're having a fight over the name. Okay, let's hear the problem. What do you want? He asks the mother, what do you want? She says, I want the name to be Moshe. Okay, beautiful name. Tati, what do you want the name to be? He says, I want the name to be Moshe. He says, wow, this is a classic Jewish fight. You want Moshe, but you're fighting. What's the fight? She says, I want Moshe after my father. He wants Moshe after his father. The rabbi says, I have a genius solution. Why don't we name the baby Moshe after both fathers? She says, no way. No way. My father was a mensch, zu Gott und zu leiten, edel, refined, sensitive, kind, gracious, respectful, generous, giving, loving, empathetic, God-fearing. My father-in-law's on the Erde Spain. A lowlife, despicable, a ganav, a gazlan, a shakran, a terrorist, a mashkas, a machabal, or a tseach, gambler, an addict, all the good things, alcoholic too, abusive. I'm not naming my son after that man. So the rabbi turns to the father and says, what do you say? He says, listen, I'm not going to argue with my wife about my father, if I know it's good for me. They didn't get along very well. But it's still my father. He's still my father. I want a name after him. The rabbi says, it's a good question. I need some time. Give me 20 minutes to deliberate and come back. They go out of the room. He sits. He contemplates. They come back 20 minutes later. Order in the court. The rabbi says, here's the psak. Here's the verdict. Tomorrow at the bris, you name the child Moshe. Psst, such brilliance. Such chachmas. Shlomo HaMelech didn't have such chachma. They both turn to him and say, but Rebbe, after whom? He says, that we wait till the boy grows up. And we'll see. We'll look at his life and we'll see. He will tell us who he was named after. If he lives one life, he's named after your father. He lives another life, he's named after your father. We don't have to pressure him at the moment. Yeah. So who's Adam? Who's Adam? You thought I forgot. Who's Adam? You have Adam is Adam and you have Adam is Adam Alalian. Both are genuine, both are authentic. I have to choose every day. There's a story about the Baal Shem Tov. It's an incredible story. You know, Pesach, one of the highlights of Pesach is Eliyahu Hanavi comes to the homes. We open the doors. We welcome Eliyahu Hanavi, Shvei Chamascha. Now, when I was a child, they would fill up the becher, the Kosher Loli, with wine. And when Eliyahu Hanavi came in, somebody would shake the table. And they would say, Eliyahu Hanavi is drinking. Okay, this is a tradition in some homes too. But what does it really mean? Part of what it means is, there was a Jew who comes to the Baal Shem Tov. He was a fine Jew, and he said he wants to see Eliyahu Hanavi. He wants to have Gilui Eliyahu. He wants to see Eliyahu. So the Baal Shem Tov says, "Was darfst du sehen Eliyahu Hanavi? What do you need Eliyahu Hanavi?" He says, "I want to see Eliyahu Hanavi." And he begged and begged and begged. He said, "Okay, I'll tell you what to do. Listen to his advice." He says, you have to get permission from your wife only if she agrees that you're going to be away for the first 2 days of Pesach. If she agrees, take a wagon, fill it up with abundance of food. Wine and matzah and fish and chicken and meat and vegetables and fruits. Every type of conceivable food and delicacy. Baal Shem Tov's days, it was before lady fingers and macaroons and Schmerling's kosher Pesach chocolate, and it's certainly before pizza and bagels that are kosher Pesach. But they still ate fish and chicken, you know, God's food, vegetables, fruits. So fill up the wagon. You have to travel to this and this city. At the end of the city, there's a forest. In the forest, there's a home, a broken home. Spend the Seder there. You'll have Gilui Eliyahu, you'll see Eliyahu Hanavi. He was excited. He asked his wife, she gave him permission happily. She'll be with her father for the Seder. Sure. He fills up the wagon, he travels to the city. Baal Shem Tov told him to come there Erev Pesach before the Seder. He arrives there now before Lichtzenden, knocks on the door. A woman comes out and he says, "Can I stay by you for the Seder?" She says, "You could stay by us, but you don't want to stay by us." He says, "Why not?" She says, "We are such a poor family, we have nothing. My kids don't have what to eat, not on a good day, not on a bad day, not Pesach, not Shabbos, not Yom Tov. We have little scraps. Our Seder is not going to look like a Seder. It's going to look like a home of poverty. That's what it's going to look like. I couldn't buy them shoes for Yom Tov, I couldn't buy them a shirt for Yom Tov. We barely have basic necessities to be able to survive." He says, "Don't worry. I have a wagon filled with food for you and your family and for me." She calls the kids. They never saw so much food in their life. They run out, they empty the wagon. The simcha, the joy in that house, I tell you, was indescribable. It was beyond Purim and Simchas Torah. They were intoxicated from joy simply to see so much matzah, so much wine, so much fish, so many vegetables, so much good food. They had a Seder like they never had. They had Yom Tov like they never experienced. One day Yom Tov, a second day Yom Tov, one Seder, another Seder. And the Jew is waiting for his treats. He's waiting for the Baal Shem Tov's candy bar. He wants to see Eliyahu Hanavi. Lo Noga V'Lo Pag. Eliyahu didn't show up. He showed up like he shows up at every Seder, but most people's eyes don't see it. Again, present company excluded. I'm talking about my eyes. He doesn't see, he was very disappointed. Fine Jews, Yirei Shamayim, Erliche Yidden, God-fearing, simple, honest people, but not Eliyahu Hanavi. He goes home, goes back to Mezhebush, as the Ukraine, comes back, Chalamoyed, goes into the Baal Shem Tov, and he says, "It's so not fair, so unfair. I left my family. You said I can go see Eliyahu Hanavi. I went, I was gemutchet with them. I brought everything to them. I saw nice people, a wonderful family. I was happy to help them, but no Eliyahu Hanavi." The Baal Shem Tov says, you have to go back. Go back to the house, but don't go inside. You stay outside. He says, what should I do outside? Stand there and listen. He goes there, Chalamoyed. It's already Erev Shvi Shel Pesach. It's before the last day of Pesach. This time he's outside. And he overhears a conversation between the husband and the wife in the house. And the husband says to the wife, what do you say? I thought I never had mazel. I never had mazel. But look what type of mazel we had this Erev Pesach. What were the odds that this wealthy man should get stuck on the road right before Yom Tov with all this food? The odds were unlikely. But this is what's called mazel. Maybe now our mazel will turn around. Such good mazel that he got stuck and he ended up with us. So his wife looks at him and she says, as a good wife, "Was hakstat shining? What are you draining a cup? You're speaking rubbish. What mazel ven mazel? Wasn't mazel. It was Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi came and delivered the food. Wasn't your mazel?" The end. He went back home. He understood what the Baal Shem Tov meant. He was looking to see Eliyahu Hanavi. The Baal Shem Tov said you have to look at yourself. But before you look at yourself, you have to do something. You have to take a wagon and load the wagon with food and go to a home, a father and mother with 9 children who don't have anything, and bring them love and bring them joy and bring them food and bring them comfort and bring them a little prosperity. And then look in the mirror and you will see Eliyahu Hanavi. That's Gili Eliyahu. So I could look in a mirror and I could look and say, wow, I see the devil. I could look and say, I see Eliyahu Hanavi. Who does it depend on? Depends on me. If I live one way, one prophecy will be true. And if I live another way, another prophecy will be true. Adam is a noun. How I interpret it, that's my choice. Both will be authentic. Either it'll be her side of the family, or it'll be his side of the family. We have 2 sides of families. We're hatched from mothers and fathers together. We can't help it. Probably the word hatched wouldn't work here. Adam, Boire Priya Adam is that Adam. So therefore, when a person begins their Seder, after Kaddish, after Ohr Chaim, I have to be able to take my vegetable. The vegetable represents the Adam, Adama, the Adam that's connected to the earth, Boire Priya Adama. That's represented by a vegetable. We're not going to start eating people at a Seder, hopefully. A vegetable, some people do, they're mahadir. But I'm not going to go there at the moment. They're mahadir to make people miserable at Zman Cheruseinu. Miserable in the name of Pesach. Okay, again, Monsey excluded. So the Boire Priya Hadam is Afar Atam al Afar Tashuv. Send them my regards, please. That's Eliyahu Hanavi. It's probably Eliyahu Hanavi. At least if you want it to be. It's probably your teenage daughter, but if you want her, she could be Eliyahu Hanavi too. You just have to have the right glasses. For yourself and for other people. I take my Karpis, I take my Boire Priya Hadama, and I dip it in water. And there's a deep significance in that. Because generally speaking, if you want to go a little more specific, the guf, the body, is made from the earth. Afar ata, vel afar tashuv. The soul is Adam Elyon, reflects Hashem. One of the mistakes that people make, and this is a profound error, this I could give 9 shiurim about, but I'm going to say it very swiftly, is we disrespect our bodies. In fact, some people associate it even with religion and Judaism. They teach themselves and they teach others that the guf is a disgusting thing, that the body is a miyasazach, that it has to be degraded, neglected, abandoned. Things that are connected to the body are at best tolerable. At best tolerable. Better to shun it. Better to get rid of it. Maybe you have to tolerate it in yourself and even more in your husband. This is a tragic error. The body is sacred. The body is holy. The body is created in God's image. It says in Zohar, Gufa de Lohain Kaddish. The guf of Ayid is sacred. The Maggid of Mizrich wrote to his son Reb Avram HaMalach, and they called him an angel because he was an angel. Listen to what he wrote. A kleine in Yiddish, a kleine lechele in guf is a große lechele in neshama. A small hole in your body is a big hole in your soul. The Baal Shem Tov said, there's a pasuk in Mishpatim, Ki sire chamor soinacha, roivetz tachas masoi, v'chadalta me'azoiv loy ozev tazavima. You remember the pasuk? Listen. If you see the donkey of your enemy crouching under his burden, it's a heavy burden, and you think to yourself, it's my enemy's donkey, what do I care? I'm not going to help him. Ozoiv tazavima, you have to help the donkey of your enemy. Lift him up, ease the burden. Let him be able to move on. That's the pasuk. Says the Baal Shem Tov. The word chamor comes from the word chomer. What does chomer mean? Physical, material, the brute. Chumrius, chomer. Kisira chamor. Sometimes you look at your own adama, your own vegetable in terms of that which comes from the earth, your own guf, and you say, Soinacha, this is my enemy. He disturbs my ruchnius. It disturbs my avodas Hashem. My body is lazy. My body is sluggish. My body is materialistic. My body is self-centered. My body is gluttonous. My body represents everything evil in man. So you may think, I'm going to abandon my body. At best, I'll tolerate it. But better, crush it, neglect it, forget about it, suppress it. Says the Baal Shem Tov, I quote, Loi bezu haderech yishko in Ohr HaTorah. The light of Torah will never dwell in your life through this. Ozoiv tazoiv imoi. You need to help the chamor. Lift it up. Cultivate it. Be sensitive to it. Listen to its voice. The body has a voice. Listen to it. Respect it. Cherish it. Harness it. And the most important thing is recognize that it's essentially pure and holy. Ozoiv tazoiv imoi. In fact, the Maharal says, it says about Mashiach, Ani v'roichev, you remember a pasuk in Zechariah, Ani v'roichev al hachamor. Mashiach is described as someone who is going to come riding on a donkey. Really? And what if he comes in a Toyota? Okay, a Rolls Royce. I wanted to say like a donkey. And what if he comes in an old Cadillac or a Buick? Or so a Lamborghini? And what if he comes on a horse and a camel? Ani v'roichev al hachamor. The pshat is, chamor comes from the word chomer. Mashiach's light is going to come on a donkey, through the physical body. The light of the Geula doesn't destroy the body, doesn't crush the guf, doesn't abandon it, doesn't neglect it, doesn't give a message that it's horrible. It appreciates that the only way to integrate your soul into your life is if your body is part of the journey. This is especially true when it comes to relationships in marriages, and it's true when it comes to every person's own development of how they eat and how they drink and how they deal with their guf and how they speak to their body and how they experience their guf. I'm not going to get into it at this shir, but sometimes all the concepts of tznius are misconstrued in people's minds as looking down at their guf. That's a very Muslim concept. It's very antithetical to Judaism. But that's a shir b'fnei atzmai. Elamai, I have to be able to take my karpas, take my adam, and cherish it. If a person ignores their karpas, if a person ignores their guf and says, I'm just looking for God and truth, and you abandon your body, you won't be able to liberate yourself. Mashiach comes al hachamor, through the chamor. I have to work with it. Sometimes with children, with teenagers, we make a mistake by teaching them, or they teach themselves, or somebody teaches them, that their guf is insignificant. It's meaningless. Ignore it, abandon it, and it's a mistake. Because they're not balanced, they don't get the oxygen they need, they don't get the growth they need, they don't have the integration they need. And when you don't have that, ultimately spiritual growth is very stifled. So the greatest light of the Geula comes ala chamar, through the chamar. So I have to take my karpas, dip it in water. The Gemara says, Ein mayim ela Torah. To be able, the Gemara says about Bakama, Ein mayim ela Torah. Torah is compared to water. And that way the Karpis could be submerged in the world of Torah, because Torah does not believe in body destruction. Yes, there is sometimes people who worship their body. It becomes a cult. There's nothing else. That's the opposite extreme. That's the idea of synchronization between body and soul. They have to work together. That's why I dip it in the water. But not suppression. Wo halt man? My Gewalt. Step number 4. Don't worry, I'm not going through the 15 today. We'll finish next week. Some of you are panicking, I see. I'm going to do one more. Yachatz. Yachatz, everybody knows, you break the matzah, right? You break the matzah. That's step number 4. The Kotzker Rebbe said, I'm going to say it in Yiddish and then I'll translate. Quite an interesting expression. Nishta za gleiche Sach wie a krumme Leiter. Nishta za krumme Sach wie a gleichwertel. Nishta za schwarze Sach wie weiße Tachrichem. Nishta za ganze Sach wie a zerbrochener Herz. Profound insight. Now how do I translate? There's nothing as straight as a crooked ladder, a slanted ladder. That's how you get up. There's nothing as crooked as a gleichwertel. Gleichwertel means not a good word. A smooth word, which is really, in Yiddish a stech, but how do you translate a stech? A sting, a punch? Okay, a gleichwertel is like a cute, smooth saying that's really meant to penetrate and stab into somebody's intestines. So there's nothing as crooked as a gleichwertel. There's nothing as black, as dark, as the white shrouds in which we dress the corpse. And there is nothing as wholesome as a broken heart. What he meant by a broken heart is a humble heart. A heart that is not arrogant and pompous. That's what yachatz. There's no real growth in life if I'm not ready to break my matzah. If I'm not ready to develop a humility and to be able to be vulnerable. Perfection is the greatest enemy to progress. The sense that I have to be perfect, appear perfect, display a veneer of perfection is the greatest enemy towards any form of growth. Because how can there be growth if I'm perfect? And how can I grow if I can't even acknowledge error, failure, misconceptions, setbacks, pain, uncertainty, unclarity? Sometimes for children who grow up with a sense that they have to be perfect, it becomes extremely difficult to develop. Because if I have to be perfect, I can't acknowledge mistakes. If I can't acknowledge mistakes, I can only do things that I will certainly excel in. If I can only do things that I will certainly excel in, I could never really grow into anything new. There's no adventure, there's no creativity, and there's no natural growth. You become what's called a bonsai tree. You know what a bonsai tree is? You don't know it? No farmers here? So I'll tell you what a bonsai tree is from my days in Brooklyn. A bonsai tree, Carroll Street. A bonsai tree is, you plant a tree and you want the tree to be impeccable. The problem is trees have issues. Ha'adam eitz hasada. Trees have issues. They have thorns, they have weeds, they have bacteria, there's insects attacking them. There's a lot of other issues. Trees are hungry, trees are thirsty, trees are dying for some sunlight, which we call love. Trees need some rain, they need nurture. Trees have issues. So what does this guy do? He perfects the tree. He cuts the tree. Wherever he sees on a branch something that's less than perfect, cuts it out. He manicures, he sculptures, he does facial cosmetic surgery, constantly on the tree, always uprooting everything that is not anything but perfect. And the tree grows up and you look at the tree and you're like, wow. There's only one problem. There's nothing true about it. There's nothing authentic about this tree. Did you ever notice that people in paintings never get into a bad mood? And did you always notice that the guy in the painting always smiles? Why can't your husband be that way? The answer is because people are not paintings. Paintings are beautiful, but they're paintings. It's called dead. A bonsai tree is perfect, but it's not real. It's not a tree. It's a manipulated tree. It's not a tree. So with that attitude, when I have that pressure to be a bonsai or to create children who are bonsai trees, and some Jews have that issue where their children have to become bonsai trees, especially to forgive for our own imperfections. We want to atone for our own imperfections through creating children who will be perfect, so that our sense of fulfillment will come through our children. And you know what type of children that creates? So you have bonsai trees, but there's nothing authentic about it. You're not dealing with a real person. Everything is a mask, a perfect mask, but there's nobody there. Like, hello? It's like punching sheetrock. There's nothing behind it. Boom, that's it. It's all just external. There's no soul behind it. There's no real person behind it. There can't be a real person. The real person had to be buried away deep down in order to be perfect, because people are not. Real people are not perfect. Real people struggle. Real people battle. Real people have ups and downs, aliyahs and yeridas. That's the nature of people. That's the nature. There's Adam and there's Adam. There's Adam Alalian and there's Adama. That's a person. Chamar Seinacha. Life is never about perfection. Life is about accountability, vulnerability, and growth. So that's yachatz. In my steps of liberation, I have to be able to break my matzah. To be able to have a humble heart and say, I'm open. As somebody once said, when I was young, I worshipped perfection. Now I'm a little older and I search only for things that have cracks in them. If you don't have a crack, I don't want you. Or I don't want me. Why? Because it's the cracks that allow the light to come in. When there's no crack, no light comes in. It's a perfect vessel. If there's a crack, if there's a yachatz, Ohr could come in. I'm open to something transcendental. I'm open to something deeper. It seems painful. Vulnerability is painful. Honesty is painful. I don't want to expose cracks. But it's only when I can expose my cracks to myself and to people I trust, that light could come in. That's yachatz. Have a wonderful week. We'll continue the other steps next week. Be'ezer Hashem. Have a beautiful week.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.